Come see Columbus, Ohio, fraud investigators. If you go to the government-assisted housing areas, you will find that most of the housing is Somalians.
More Somali fraud has been exposed out of Ohio. This is getting out of hand, and they're all being exposed.
We wanted to come out to Columbus, Ohio, and investigate what might be going on in the second largest Somali community in the United States of America.
No kids? So how can I enroll my children? It says you get...
Because of you, it's not an option.
This is a money that gets...
It's not an option. It's you.
Today we will hear from Americans speaking on the Somali Scandal hitting the state of Ohio. Check it out.
Come see Columbus, Ohio, fraud investigators. If you go to the government-assisted housing areas, you will find that most of the housing is Somalians. I would say about 80% of the government-assisted housing in Columbus is occupied by Somalians. And the parking lot is occupied with a whole bunch of brand new cars. And the women walking around have designer purses with EBT cards, and they have Apple iPhones stuck up in their hijabs. Yeah. And then go to the businesses that are owned by the men. Because see, what happens is when you have a restaurant or when you have a little corner store and you have a couple of wives and you only have to claim one, then that means the other wives get EBT cards, and you can use those EBT cards to buy food for your store or your restaurant. Yeah. Or what you can do is you can get a home health aid company. And then you only hire Somalians to work the home health aid. And what you do is you just make sure their paperwork looks right. It don't have to be right, but you just make sure it looks right. And then you send them off for those home health aid jobs. Y'all don't want to talk about fraud.
So right now we are in front of the Great Minds Learning Academy. This is one of the many daycare centers, learning centers here in Columbus, Ohio that are associated with the Somali community. We wanted to come out to Columbus, Ohio and investigate what might be going on in the second largest Somali community in the United States of America. So this place here is the first place we're gonna knock, and we're gonna see if anybody picks up or answers the door. Let's see. So, it's locked. We're ringing the doorbell here. Knocking on the door. Nobody's picking up. So we're not sure what the hell's going on here, but we're gonna get out of here. Now there's somebody over there. How you doing, sir? I'm sure you see the reports over the weekend about all the daycare centers in Minnesota. We just wanted to see what was going on. Did you know anything about this place here?
It's a daycare center owned by Somalians and stuff like that.
Do you ever see any kids there?
No, because they use the back door, so I won't know if they is.
They use the back door?
Yeah, I've never seen nobody come in here, but they use the back door.
But have you ever seen any kid? You live around here?
Yeah, on this building right here.
Oh, you're in this building?
Yeah.
You're in this building too? Hey, let me ask you, have you ever seen any kids in this place here?
No, not that I know of. They use the back, so I've never seen nobody come out the front.
You've never seen anybody over there?
No, not at all.
I just seen the building itself. I've never seen nobody come out the building or go into the building.
Bro, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I knew about the Somali shit 20 years ago. I had my son 20 years ago. I went to go get Section 8. Drove down to the Section 8 office in Columbus, Ohio, and guess who the fuck I seen? 100 Somalians, nigga. They had fucking tents. They had their vans parked in the parking lot and made tents, nigga. It's first come, first serve when you go to get help from the government. Then when you wait after all these niggas, they like, oh yeah, we don't got no more room left. We only had 80 spots. Yeah, 100 Somalians got all the motherfucking Section 8, nigga. I knew about this 20 years ago. I never did get the Section 8, and the government don't give a fuck. The federal government don't care. They complicit.
He said Somalians was out there like it was Black Friday. Like it was about to be a Jordan release. They was camped out, right? And these spaces are so limited when it comes to Section A or any type of housing assistance. Once they fill up, these lists could be on pause. They could freeze these lists for 5 to like 15 years where you're waiting for them to open up the list to get, to try to apply again. and someone notified them, right? They probably know people in the housing, in the HUD office to notify them like, hey, we're about to open up the list. Be here as soon as possible. While they're blocking out Americans for even hopping on this list. And he said this been going on 20 years ago in Ohio before the Minnesota even hit. So they'll get in these positions and just only look out for their people, period. Like, this need to be addressed, and that's why people wonder why Donald Trump or Scott Turner is talking about, oh, we're going to have housing limits now. There's no more generational, housing. Yo, mama was on it. Her mama was on it.
All right, so a lot of this fraud in Minnesota is centered around daycares. And now there are claims about daycares coming up from Ohio, and this is crazy. I'm just going to start showing you some of these examples here, but basically Columbus is home to the nation's second largest Somali community behind Minnesota. There's about 60,000 Somali Americans in Columbus, and there's 500 Somali-owned businesses. And if you're not caught up on this, the FBI is now investigating this fraud in Minnesota. They say that it might reach up to $9 billion, one of the largest Medicaid frauds in American history. And federal officials have portrayed the Somali community as a hotspot for fraud. And I mean portrayed, but most of the fraud defendants are of Somali descent in Minnesota. So people just started using this tool where you can look up daycare centers in Ohio to look these places up. So here's 161 Child Care LLC, and it's listed at this address. So I literally just put this address in my own personal Google Maps, and this is what I see. It's listed as a smoke shop. Okay, and then here's First Choice Child Care. It's listed at this address, 4303 Cleveland Avenue. And this is what I see. It's just like the windows are all blacked out. There's no playscape. There's nothing for kids. Maybe the photo was taken at the wrong time, but not many cars there. All right, and then there's Benatti Child Care 2. And it's at 3629 Cleveland Avenue. And here we go again. Part of it is a boutique with bars on it. And here's the child care center. These all say 6 weeks to 12 years old. And if you have kids, you would know that most child care centers do not enroll kids that are between 6 weeks and 12 years old. That's way too big of a spread. But it enables you to get more kids enrolled, hypothetically, or at least claim that they're enrolled. And then you just start looking at the reviews. And so if they even have reviews, like this place got 2 reviews 2 years ago, and they're both 5-star reviews. And again, I don't know if you have kids, but daycares get reviews. Okay, and then you got the Hayat Learning Center, and it's at 2599 Tiller Lane. This place you can't even see on Google Maps. But you can see that at this address, there's like all these businesses that are listed there, and this learning center is just one of them, and it has no reviews. And then this one, Ka Child Care, which is listed at 2635 Dublin, and that's this spot here. You gotta love the 1-star award winner. But mostly you just notice like there's no playground, there's no kids. And this place is listed as being permanently closed, but it got 1 review and it's been open since 2018. So in the last, 5-6 years, 1 review. All right, so here is Bright Kids Academy. We get the classic blacked out windows again. No reviews. Here is the Star Zone Daycare here. Again, blacked out windows, no cars, no playground. They do have a few reviews, and this lady said it's a joke. The teachers are not trained and are basically women that bring their kids to the center, and this is gonna come back. Here's another one that donated to his campaign, Primo One Daycare. Again, classic, no cars, blacked out windows. And they had the wherewithal to put up these, nice looking photos, but again, no reviews. And here's this one, Rise Up Daycare, which is in this place. Again, classic, no playground. They say that they've enrolled 71 kids, which means they're getting reimbursed for, more kids. But when they were actually inspected, there was hardly any kids in the building. So yeah, it looks like the same scheme that's been used in Minnesota likely seems like it's going on in Ohio. And when I'm reflecting on this, it just makes me remember that Somalis follow this Islamic tradition where men can marry up to 4 wives, provided they're able to support them. And based on my research, it just seems like oftentimes what will happen is there will be one official marriage and then more cultural marriages. But then I started thinking about this lady's review where she was like, hey, the teachers aren't trained and they're basically just women that bring their kids to the center. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. That might jive with this whole thing. And so it's like, all right, cool. So if the guys are able to support them is the big thing, but like, I mean, just are we the ones supporting them? And if so, just genuine question, do we want to do that?
This is not going to be just Minnesota, and I think a lot of people are curious now about their own states. So here you have Ohio, and this was just uncovered in Ohio. Over 40 daycare centers in Columbus, Ohio opened up using the same defunct Somali shell company on this same day and collected $14 million in subsidies in 2024 alone. And then there are your receipts right there. And what's extremely frustrating is that people are more upset at this fraud being exposed than the actual fraud that is being exposed. And that is exactly how people got away with this so long. And because the majority of this fraud that's being uncovered at the moment happens to be from the Somali community, people are upset that others are pointing this out, calling individuals a specific name. I don't care who it's coming from, what community you belong to, where you come from, fraud is fraud. And it does not mean that every single person who is Somalian is committing this fraud. But if you can't call out things within your own community, then that shows that you have an allegiance to your community rather than calling out fraud, which is a serious problem to a lot of people.
For more than 30 years, consequential pattern has been unfolding in America. One where federal and state governments, nonprofit networks, and political interests intersect with immigrant communities in ways that are neither accidental nor innocent. What many now call the Somali Scandal is not simply about fraud or misuse of public funds. It is about how the American government repeatedly looks the other way when corruption serves political or economic goals, and how immigrant communities are often encouraged, implicitly or explicitly, to operate in gray areas until the moment they are no longer useful. The most visible example came out of Minnesota, where one of the largest fraud cases in U.S. history exposed how tens of millions of dollars meant to feed children were siphoned off through nonprofit organizations, shell companies, and inflated claims. While the individuals involved deserve accountability, the deeper question remains largely unaddressed. How did this go on for years without serious intervention? The answer is uncomfortable, but familiar. Oversight failures at this scale do not happen by accident. They happen because enforcement was never the priority. For decades, federal and state agencies promoted rapid refugee resettlement while simultaneously lowering scrutiny in the name of cultural sensitivity, diversity optics, and political expediency. Audits were delayed, red flags were ignored, whistleblowers were dismissed. When concerns were raised, often by Black Americans who live alongside these systems and understand how selective enforcement works, they were labeled xenophobic, divisive, or anti-immigrant. In reality, many of those warnings were rooted in lived experience with how American power operates. What many Somali immigrants are now experiencing, public scrutiny, media outrage, and aggressive prosecutions, is not unique. It follows a well-worn historical pattern. White supremacy does not require loyalty, it requires utility. When a group is politically useful, as voting blocks, cheap labor, nonprofit intermediaries, or proof of successful multiculturalism, their transgressions are minimized or ignored. Once that utility fades, the same system flips the narrative overnight. Black Americans have seen this cycle repeatedly. Groups once praised as model immigrants suddenly become framed as criminals, parasites, or threats when economic conditions tighten or political winds shift. Irish, Italians, Asians, Latinos, all have experienced versions of this arc. The difference is that foundational Black Americans were never allowed the grace period. There was no window where abuse of the system was tolerated, no benefit of the doubt, no strategic blindness from the state. Many Somali immigrants are now being caught off guard, not because wrongdoing is new, but because the protection has been withdrawn. What once passed under bureaucratic indifference is now treated as a crisis. What was once described as community-based aid is now framed as organized fraud. This shift is not about justice alone. It is about control, optics, and political cover. Another critical factor often overlooked is the nonprofit industrial complex. Federal agencies outsource responsibility to nonprofits, which then outsource accountability to cultural intermediaries. This structure creates layers of plausible deniability while funneling massive sums of taxpayer money with minimal oversight. When scandals break, the lowest level actors are prosecuted, while the architects of the system, politicians, agencies, consultants, escape meaningful consequences. Black Americans tried to warn immigrant communities about this reality for years. Alignment with white power structures does not equal protection. Participating in systems that marginalize Black Americans does not grant permanent safety. Being used as a demographic shield against Black political claims, whether around reparations, housing, education, or labor, comes with a cost. The real issue is a government that selectively enforces laws, exploits vulnerable populations, and uses diversity as camouflage for corruption. The real issue is a political culture that tolerates abuse when it serves power and punishes it only when convenient. If there is a lesson here, it is this: no group is immune from the machinery of American hierarchy. The same system that allowed abuse to flourish is the same system now cracking down, without acknowledging its own role. Black Americans understand this better than anyone because we have lived on the receiving end of both neglect and punishment, often simultaneously. What is happening now is not just a scandal, it is a reckoning, one that exposes how fragile proximity to power really is and how quickly the rules change when usefulness expires. Tell me what you think about this topic. Hope you find the information in this video informative. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks for watching.